Hey guys, it's your girl Tiff. Welcome to the Change Talk YouTube channel, the official YouTube channel of Awakening Change Counseling Services. Join us here every Thursday night at 9 p.m. where we'll talk about a host of topics related to behavioral health, leadership, and self-care. Don't forget to hit the button to like, subscribe, and share with all your friends and followers. I'll see you guys soon. Felt like you were overwhelmed, stressed out, didn't really have enough time. You could make time for everybody else, but not for yourself. If the answer to any of those is yes, then this book is for you. I've written a book called Reclaiming My Time, a Black woman's guide to self-care, with the express intention of helping women who look just like me to balance all aspects of their life. Now, I can't guarantee you that you'll never be stressed out again, but what I can guarantee you is that if you dig into the principles that I outline in my book, that you'll learn how to carry your stress so much better and live your best life. Pre-orders are available now. Click the link to grab your copy. Hey, Change fam, how are you? It's Thursday night again. If we haven't met before, I'm Dr. J, and this is Change Talk. Every Thursday I come on and I try to talk about some topic that is related to behavioral health, self-care, leadership, topics that I feel fairly confident that I'm qualified to talk about. And when I'm not, I do what I've done tonight. If it's a topic that I feel like is important and I can't really dig into it the way that I'd like to, I go and I phone a friend. So that's what I've done tonight. I'm really glad that you guys are here with me. If this is your first time joining me, please understand that this is a very interactive broadcast. So I want you guys to jump right in. Yes, see, do that. Hey, how are you? I want you to jump right in. I want you to say hi to me. I want you to ask your questions. I want you to engage. If you happen to be catching this on the replay, that's okay. We'll still cooperate and interact with you just the same as if you were here. Hit hashtag replay, and all of the comments will come up, and I'll make sure that your questions get answered. Tonight, I have a very special guest with me, who I don't know if Mary's on yet, but a colleague of mine, Mary May, when I put out a call for folks who knew something about the topic of human trafficking, Mary introduced me to our guest tonight. And I got to tell you, in a really brief conversation, it was very apparent that this sister knows what she is doing. She knows what she's talking about. And so I'm really excited to have her with me. I'm going to bring her on shortly and I'll let her introduce herself to you. But hey, sweetie, how are you? But we're going to talk about human trafficking because tomorrow, the 30th, is World Against Human Trafficking Day. And I think it's a subject that we don't talk about enough in our community. And so, like I said, wasn't something that I know a whole lot about. So I decided to call in the big guns, right? So I want you guys to help me welcome Miss Shakinah Love from Redeemed for a Cause. Welcome, Shakinah. Tell the people who you are, what you do, all that good stuff.
Thank you for having me, Dr. J. Hello, everybody. I'm Shakinah Love, the Executive Director and Founder of Redeemed for a Cause Outreach. We are a survivor, woman, and minority-led nonprofit organization that seeks as a catalyst for change for women who have been trafficked and or are survivors of trafficking. And we work with them to realize their true intrinsic worth and true potential. So if I could give the more open version of what we do, we're an anti-trafficking program that does outreach in the city of Philadelphia, also the tri-state area. We are the people that are the boots on the ground, going and working with women and girls who are either victims or those who could be potential victims of trafficking.
Hmm. Now, when you say victims or potential victims, explain to the folks what you mean by that. What's the difference? Like, how do you know who's a potential victim?
So any girl or woman, I say girl and women, but I also say men and boys, but we particularly work with girls and women. So any teenage girl or woman who has been a victim of sexual assault, domestic violence, they may have had a child as a teenager, anyone who is a part of the homeless population, the LGBTQIA plus population, anyone who is vulnerable, anyone who has dealt with rejection, abandonment, insecurities. Those are the young ladies and girls that we typically look out for. Any young lady that is at risk for any type of risky behaviors are the individuals that we try to connect with through our organization.
Okay. Now, by that definition, any young woman, any young person, old person, I guess, because it doesn't have to be teenagers, is at risk. So that kind of brings me to my first question, because a lot of times we think of it as only being in a certain, human trafficking only affects a certain demographic. It's only in a certain area. It's only, this certain thing, but you've already busted one of the myths. And that was kind of my first question, which is like, what are the misconceptions people have when we start talking about human trafficking? One of them obviously is that it only happens to girls. You just said it can happen to young men as well. The other one is that there's so many different people who could be vulnerable to this type of thing. What are some of the other things that in your work you've seen that you've got to kind of like, no, that's not true, and really like help debunk?
So I'll give you a couple, and I have them pulled up because I want to make sure that I touch each of them.
Okay.
So human trafficking is always or usually a violent crime. That is a myth.
Mm,
All human trafficking involves commercial sex. That is also a myth. Only undocumented foreign nationals get trafficked into the United States. Only women and girls are victims and or survivors of sex trafficking. And human trafficking involves transporting a person across a state or national border. So those are some of the myths. A lot of times people will refer to the movie Taken as what they
mm-hmm.
consider to be human trafficking, but I'll even bring it in Holland even more. I know we're early on, but I like to paint the picture in the face. Normally, when I do this in person, I have our participants to draw pictures of their inner and their outer faces, and everybody draws their faces, and of course everybody wants to share their outer face, but no one wants to share their inner. Like yourself, I have worked in behavioral health, mental health. I've also worked as an outpatient therapist, and we know no one wants to talk about those inner things.
Mm-mm.
So when we do this exercise, I always have people to share both faces if they're comfortable. And I debunk the myth that a trafficking victim is not the woman that is just prostituting, is not the woman that uh, had a baby out of wedlock. It could be you, me, it could be your sister, your aunt, your cousin, your niece, your
Mhm.
nephew.
Mhm.
And the thing that I'll say is, no one knew that I was a victim of human trafficking because I lived a normal teenage life. I went home every day. I was in school every day, but yet and still I was trafficked right here in the city of Philadelphia. So that is definitely one of the myths. You do not have to ever leave where you live. You can go home every day and you can still be trafficked.
Mhm. And I know from our previous conversation when we were talking kind of offline, one of the things you were saying is that the traffickers aren't always strangers.
Oh no.
that there in a lot of these cases the person that's doing the trafficking can be a family member. Can you speak to that a little bit? Because I don't think people, like, we're only in our communities just starting to talk about multi-generational trauma and sexual trauma and things like that, but this adds a whole nother layer to that conversation. Can you speak to that a little bit?
So, who are the traffickers? Anyone could be a trafficker. Organized crime. So, these are individuals who have planned criminal activity. A drug dealer who has learned the art of selling drugs to their victims as well as getting them to sell their bodies could be a trafficker. A business owner, someone who owns a hotel, a spa, a massage parlor, a strip club, a family member, neighbor, a friend, a village chief. So this could be for like domestic. Agriculture operations also fall under who could be a trafficker. And I always say this. I had a parent who told me once that, and this just goes for those who have children, a trafficker for teenagers could be that anybody to your child to give them anything that you have told them no to. Not
Mm.
saying that we should just give our kids whatever they want when they want it. But the very person that comes across your child that is able to groom them and that's able to make them feel comfortable has the ability to make them do things before it even turns into sexually. There may be something that they do manipulative psychologically that can cause them to trust them. And once they break down those barriers, they got them.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of times what happens is we don't believe that a trafficker can be our everyday person. It's the reason why our organization started to work with teenagers because a lot of the women that we service during our outreach and what we do during outreach is we go to where women are engaging in street prostitution. These women were once teenage girls.
Mhm.
And when they were teenage girls, a lot of them were introduced to drugs and sex by their family members. So if they had a father or a mother that had a drug addiction, and in order for them to feed their drug addiction or their drug habit, they would exchange their children for sex.
Mhm.
So anything that there is any forms of force, fraud, or coercion is a form of human trafficking. So in cases that we deal with, the women normally are coerced, or there's some type of coercion where the family member or the friend may say, if you do this, then I'll give you that. The parent may say, well, if you give me this extra 8 ball of drugs, then I'll give you my daughter in exchange. That is
Mhm.
a form of human trafficking.
Mhm. And it I think that's the reason why this conversation is so necessary. And if you guys happen to be jumping in late, this is Miss Shakinah Love. She's the CEO and founder of Redeemed for a Cause, and she's sharing with us some information about human trafficking in advance of World Against Human Trafficking Day, which is tomorrow. We know that the whole awareness month is in January, but tomorrow is World Against Human Trafficking Day, so we wanted to bring this on. And I want you guys to, I know we're talking about a heavy subject, but please don't be shy. Ask your questions, let's get the information out there so that we can protect our children. It's also in schools and churches and businesses. Yes, it is literally everywhere. If there are people there, if there are humans, I guess that's the rule of thumb, right? If there's humans, there can be human trafficking. Because to your point, it's not always in those grand ways that we tend to think about it, in those Hollywood type of things. It literally is in like everyday type of situations. So that, I guess, is a good segue to our next question, which is, and you alluded to this a little bit earlier, but can you talk a little bit more about how the trafficking we see interwoven with things like domestic violence and sexual assault and all of those other forms of abuse? And one of the things you said is that, if somebody tells you no, your parents tell you no, somebody else is going to tell you yes. I know she is dropping gems, isn't she, Catherine? She getting us right tonight. She getting us right. But to your point, like there's all of this complexity. Can you speak to that a little bit?
So I always like to also debunk the myth about what a pimp or a John. A John is a person that buys. What a pimp trafficker John looks like. So
Mhm.
pimps are predators. That's what they are. And a lot of times they're referred to as traffickers. And a pimp is someone that forces an individual into prostitution. They're arranging for them to be with customers. And they're the individual that is keeping majority or all of the earnings.
Mhm.
Any person that tries to psychologically manipulate or control another individual across the border, whether it be domestic violence, sexual assault, or human trafficking, that is a form of abuse. And I
Mhm.
think a lot of times what happens is people don't believe that a victim of human trafficking can also be a domestic violence individual or a sexual assault victim. And that is not true. What happens a lot of times is the art of manipulation and control is used. I know I have used in the past the power of control will
Mhm.
is a big one that is used a lot of times to show how they interwove and they overlap one another. Any way that this individual can control, any way that this individual can get this other person to do something that they want them to do, that is a form of trafficking. So they look to target their victims, they trick them, and then they traumatize them.
Mm.
So if I can target you by grooming you to make you think that I love you and we're in this committed relationship, a lot of times we have heard our women refer to their pimps or perpetrators as their husbands or their daddies, or their dates. So if I can target you, so I may be at a bus stop where teenage girls are going back and forth to school. I may be at an after school program grooming them and making them believe that I have things that they need or that I can give them a better life. Or if I have a woman that's coming from a broken family and she's had broken relationships and then she meets this guy that promises her things, then that's a way for him to groom her. So it's just
Mhm.
a way of them using manipulation and control to basically target their victims. And then what they do after they target them is they literally trick them into believing that they love them and that they care for them and that sometimes that they're the only person that loves and care for them.
Mhm.
I'm doing this because I love you and I did this because I want the best for you. And then once that happens, they traumatize them. They tell them, if you leave me, then I'll kill myself or I'll kill you. If you try to leave me, if you leave me, I'll kill your family. And once that
Mhm.
takes place, then the individual is trapped.
Mhm. Mhm. I think that grooming, I don't think we talk enough about that part because it really is it's predatory, but it's not in a way that we often think about a predator. We think about this predator as like this big nasty, like the big bad wolf who just comes and starts sneaking, you know, but it's not that. It is literally just let me fill whatever holes you have, but it's not for, a genuine purpose. It's yeah, it's a trick. It's just it's deception at its finest. Um yeah, Rashana, some people do cover it up so well. And it's I think this part of the reason why I think this is important is literally because of just how deceptive that process can be. Like
Yeah.
we're in Minority Mental Health Month, and this is all the more reason why taking care of our mental health and healing from whatever is going on with us is so important, because when those wounds are healed and we are healthier and stronger emotionally, we're a little less susceptible. Doesn't mean that we're going to be completely immune to it, but we'll be a little bit less susceptible to these things. So, one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on is because I feel like this is so, not only do trafficking victims have a whole different path of healing that they have to go through that is important, but part of the prevention that you talk about really is us taking care of ourselves a little bit better. And not only ourselves, but looking out kind of for our communities as well. And making sure that we're getting what we need, like,
Yeah,
because when our cups are full, then it doesn't, it leaves less room for some of these shady characters.
very true.
So tell me about your prevention efforts. I know you do a lot of what you do is prevention. And in our conversation, we were talking about how much easier it is to prevent one of these young ladies or even young men from getting in this system than it is to help them rehab from it. Talk a little bit about some of your prevention efforts and how things can be prevented.
So I try to give very, very realistic um, statistics about what we see when we do outreach with women who are engaged in street prostitution. In the 4 years of our existence, we have helped over um, 500 women of victims of human trafficking. We've also helped 375 teenagers. There is less than a 5% chance that when we encounter those women that are severely drug addicted and have been engaging in street prostitution, some for decades. We have met women in their late 50s and early 60s that are now chasing a drug. It is very hard to get them out and for them to stay out. We have
Mhm.
taken them in to detox programs. All of my team, including myself, were Narcan trained. We're trauma informed trained. You name it, we have the trainings. We have spent time with these women. We went through triage with them to get into programs. We've even helped them to get into programs outside of the city. And what happens is we come back out and they're right back out there.
Mhm.
So I decided about 2.5 years ago that it was time to go inside of the schools, which is the place that before COVID that students were spending or kids were spending a lot of their time. We know as mandated reporters that teachers and school administrators are the people that have the most interactions with kids sometimes.
Mhm.
They are the eyes and ears when the parents are not necessarily paying attention. And what we started to do is do support groups for the at risk teens that were
Mhm.
identified by their school administrators, teachers, counselors, principal, dean of students that needed some extra support. And in these groups, we talk to them about everything from relationships to consent to human trafficking to bullying to drugs, you name it, we talk about it. And what we've done in the last year is open up toiletry closets that we call the flower shop, where the girls are able to come into the flower shop and are able to get toiletry items. And the reason we did this is because what's happening, and I have a friend that has a period hub, a menstrual period hub here in Philly. Teenage girls were showing that they were using washcloths and cotton from inside of diapers to stop their menstruals because they didn't have the means to take care of their periods. Or what we're seeing with some of our girls is that their parents don't have the means, especially since COVID. And what they're doing is they're exchanging their bodies for everyday toiletry items. So we
Mhm.
open up these hubs in the toiletry closets inside of the schools so that the girls have access to these items for free.
Mhm.
What we have seen in 2019 before COVID, we had a group of 10 girls from a local high school that actually completed a 20-week program. So they went through the entire school year. And some of the girls who were some of the ones that were the problem children in the school are now high school graduates on their way to college. They're now working on college applications or working on job applications. And since then, I've decided to really we have a drop in center that was solely for the women that we were engaging with during street outreach. We have now renovated our drop in center to make it more teen friendly. And what we've been doing for the month of July is running groups for kids that are in teen shelters for them to come in and we are able to minister and really help these children with the things that they're dealing with on day to day. Especially since COVID, school's been closed. They don't have anywhere to go. They're closed up in the house with
Mhm.
social media. doing all types of things. So we have this hub for them to come into and receive different services. And so far, so good. We've had a good outcome.
Good, good. Because like you said, it's a 95% recidivism rate, basically. Only 5% of people are really getting it. So it's easier to stop it before it gets started, because that once your brain becomes chemically altered by whatever substance it is that you've become dependent on, you're not really talking to that person anymore.
No.
Um Seen it happen with so many childhood friends dating the smooth older men. Yes. Gave them the fly clothes and jewelry, then had them doing things from stripping to sexual acts. And that's the thing. It starts off real smooth. And, I know, I partner with another organization called Distribute in Dignity, and their platform really is the feminine hygiene products and new bras for women in need, because that is such a sensitive subject, that if I don't have what I need to take care of my basic needs, like this is like Maslow's hierarchy, right? Like if my basic needs aren't being met, then anything else you try to give me is just, you can forget about it. It's not gonna stick. So talk a little bit more about those drop-in centers. And I'm having some problem with getting it posted in here. It might just be our platform, but I'm going to, for those of us who are watching, the flyers for Shakinah's organization and all of this great stuff that she's doing will be posted on our social media pages tomorrow, so that you have the contact, and she's going to share her contact information in a little bit. But speak a little bit more about, the things that you are doing, all of these great prevention efforts and outreach efforts that you guys have going on.
So our drop-in center is open Monday, Tuesday, every first and third Thursday, and then every Saturday from 12 to 2. And any woman or girl that is a victim and or a survivor, or just someone who has experienced any form of abuse that needs toiletries, undergarments, or just a safe space to come to and just to sit and rejuvenate. We call it the safe haven, is what I've named it. It's just a safe space for people to come and unwind. It's not a very overwhelming, big space. It's a very intimate space that's small enough for them to feel that they're connecting with the people that are there. When you come, you'll be welcomed by my face or one of my team members' face. And every person that is on our team is a survivor of something. It's not necessarily
Mm.
a survivor of human trafficking, but we have women on our team that are two-time sexual assault survivors. I have someone on my team who is a survivor of childhood drug addiction. I have so many different women on our team who have experienced different traumatic things, but they have overcome. We are very, very loving. So we love on our women and our girls. We're huggers. So we will hug them. We speak into them. We do a lot of affirmations. I did a group last Monday for a teen shelter, and I had a kit with some cue cards in it, and we read affirmations. I believe in positive affirmations and speaking into who we are. So we always start with some type of affirmation. And when you come in, like I said, you'll be greeted with love, and you're able to pick toiletries. There is no limit. We're not standing over you, hovering over you. That's enough. You can't have that. Whatever you need is there at your fingertips.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a bigger edition of the toiletry closets that's inside of the schools. We have snacks, coffee. We're doing an event with ice cream where we'll be doing ice cream floats with the kids, and we'll be talking about dreams and aspirations. So we try to keep the drop-in center very trendy and teen friendly.
And thank you, Dawn. Dawn is the assistant with the mostest. Dawn is on it tonight. Dawn has all of, if you have been paying attention, I've been putting up the contact information. And Dawn beat me to the punch of asking how people can support the organization. Thank you so much, Dawn. If you want to support the work that Shakinah and her team are doing, the information is here. It's up. and you can support the work that they are doing. And so it's going to be it's here. I'm going to put it in the embedded in the actual information for the video as well, so that even if you don't want to watch the whole video again, it'll be there. You can help out. And we've got your socials for people to get in touch with you, but I want to just put up your website again, www.redeemedforacause.org. Um, and it looks like that was all I had. If you guys have any other questions or comments, drop them in the comments from wherever you're joining us from. But Sakina, any final thoughts? Anything you wanna say to the people? Anything like that?
Sure. So the other thing that I wanted to mention that we decided to do very recently that I think is just very important is trying to get the community more involved.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there's so much that we can do as an organization. Yes, we can be there to support the women as much as we can, but it takes a community effort. So what we have done um, is created something called Redeem for a Cause Outreach Emergency Community Hubs. So all throughout the city of Philadelphia, starting in August, we have pinpointed and targeted schools, churches, funeral homes, grocery stores, uh, KUAs, which are the community umbrella agencies that are under DHS, and anyone else, a neighbor of a house. Like our drop-in center is actually in a home. Well, it's a storefront that sits at the front of a house. So my landlords will have they will have access to toiletries, and we're going to be dropping off containers of toiletries to start these community hubs. So
Mm-hmm.
in a situation where we're not available, there will be care packages for the women and the girls to have access to, and inside there will be resources to our center. There's a bad date sheet in there, which is a sheet that
Mm-hmm.
they can actually track down if they ever go on a bad date, and they can reach out to us to help with reporting. We're going to have women against rape resources in there, from war, the domestic violence hotline information in there, the mental health crisis hotline number, so that they always have access to resources if ever there is a circumstance that they don't know what to do. And what
Mm-hmm.
we're doing by doing this is making everyone be responsible, from the organizations to community leaders to churches to whoever, because at this point, because these women are in our communities, these girls are in our communities, it's our responsibility to be a part of the solution and not the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So when the social media handles go up, I mean, not social media, the flyers go up tomorrow. We are definitely looking for donations of toiletries. So any women toiletry items, and if Dawn has a chance, she could probably put a couple in the chats. So tampons, pads, travel size boxes of soap, deodorant, any woman toiletry items we are looking for. Also undergarments of all sizes, sports bras of all sizes. We are looking for those to put inside of these community hubs, as well as toiletry closets. And then always, I will be less than a person. We are a nonprofit. We don't get any major funding. We are not one of them organizations that get those really, 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 really big grants. We've applied, but they're very competitive. So we are always looking for monetary donations to help with running these different efforts that we have. So that's one of our newest initiatives, but it's going to be one of our biggest, because we're going to have these um, emergency community hubs all throughout the city. And the more that we provide to the city and to the women and girls, the more toiletries we're going to need.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you and I will be in touch, because Awakening Change wants to definitely be part of that solution that you're talking about. And I want to see what we can do, kind of where the need is, and we'll talk about the best way to put I believe that, it's all great to talk about it, but you got to put something behind the talk. You've got to have some action. So, you and I will be in touch and we'll talk about kind of what we can do. And I definitely encourage any of you guys who are watching right now to go to the website, make a donation, get your stuff together. If you don't want to go to Philadelphia, reach out to me. I'll get it. I'll make sure that they get it for the work that they're doing. And I also want to connect you with someone who does similar work around making sure that young women and girls have supplies that they need, and see if maybe you guys can partner together to get you some supplies there as well. um I cannot say thank you enough. I think I got everybody's comments. I cannot say thank you enough for joining me. I know when we talked before, this is kind of your wind down time. um so I thank you so much for coming on and sharing from your heart. I already told you this is going to be like an ongoing conversation. We going to have to talk more about this.
Sure.
Vicky said thank you. Vicky, thank you
Thank
for
you.
joining us. So we're going to be talking again, but I want us to kind of strategize and see how we can kind of keep this momentum going, make sure that you guys get what you need for those drop-in centers and all that good stuff. So you guys have the website. It's www.redeemedforacause.org. I want you to go check it out. I want you to support this cause, but I also want you to start engaging in these conversations in whatever spaces you may be in, whether it's with your own family members, if it's in your church community, if you're active in sports community, wherever it is. Start having this conversation, start sharing these resources, because you never ever know whose life you could be saving. And it may be closer to you than you think, but if you don't ask the questions, you won't get the answers, and we won't have any change. So, Shakinah, thank you so much for coming. I'm have you hang out in the green room real quick while I do our little parting church announcements, as I like to call them.
Yes.
But we will definitely be in touch. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
All right, guys. So, that is another show. Thank you so much for joining me. Like I said, I want you guys to go to Shakinah's website, www.redeemedforacause.org. I really, really want you guys to support this work, for obvious reasons. So here are our announcements. See this whole big stack back here? Ignore my water bottle. That, if you are a VIP, is your VIP box that will be going out this weekend. You should have gotten an email confirming that, um, your tracking number, so that you can track your shipment. But as of this Saturday, everyone's books will be out and will be to them. If you're a VIP, your box will be coming to you. If for whatever reason you have not yet ordered a book, that's fine. Go to www.awakeningchange.org, and you can click on at the bottom of the page, it says book. Click on that, place your order, and we'll get it out to you. Now, you won't have a VIP box because those only went to the first 100 folks, and those are all gone. But you can still get a signed copy of the book. www.awakeningchange.org. I want you to go check out Shakinah's organization and make a tangible donation so that we can help save our young women and girls. All right. I will see you guys next week, same time, same station. And we will be back on Instagram next week. But for this conversation, it made it a little bit difficult to be able to do that, and have Shakinah and everybody be able to hear her. So we'll be back on all 4 platforms next week. But again, go to www.redeemedforacause.org, donate, share the word, and I will see you guys next week. Take care.